Hi, my name is Craig Allen, and I started in video games in the early 90s at the Walt Disney Company, working on things like Aladdin, Lion King, Hercules. Then went to the Jim Henson Company, started working with Muppets, ran that interactive group for a few years before starting my own game studio, where we did the first Call of Duty game and a lot of other ones. Right now, we're working on a new platform that lets people share their stories with the world, using AI technology to make it easier to craft a story and share it. And we think that this is really the next era of creation at the speed of imagination, and it's going to change everything. So it's really interesting over the years to have seen video games start out as something really that was kind of a red-headed stepchild for media companies. We were a small division, people didn't really understand what we were doing, it wasn't part of the mainstream. But as it became more and more important, decision makers had to embrace it. And now, today, there's 3.3 billion gamers in the world. It's a $200 billion a year business, and it really is at the front and center of culture, affecting everything from how we shop, how we get Ubers with like a mini map, secret menus. Kids growing up now have really embraced game culture. And that transition was really interesting, much like the early days of the internet when people thought, oh, I need an internet division. Well, really the internet is going to power your whole division. It's going to become kind of the lifeblood, like electricity, of your organization. And AI is kind of on that same trajectory, starting right now as a novelty, something that people are still hearing about. Only about 30% of people are using AI. So there's early days and a huge growth track ahead. But just like the internet, AI is going to affect everything. There are now new teams embracing AI, but AI is kind of also destabilizing and disrupting the game industry. Because instead of needing hundreds of people to make an immersive experience or to create professional looking graphics, you're going to be able to text to gaming as easily as you might write a letter in Microsoft Word or something. So it's a real game changer, and we've only just begun to see the impact. There's many different types of gaming, and there's certainly many different ways that we play. But immersive means that we feel like we're in that world. And just like you can read a book, I mean, a book you wouldn't think of as being immersive, but it creates a mental construct that puts you in that world, and good writing paired with somebody who has a good imagination, it is immersive. It's just in a mental construct, not a physical one. Immersive gaming, to me, is very similar to like VR gaming or video games that really put you, with a player, with a lot of agency in the middle of something. Immersive theater is doing that physically. VR is doing that virtually. But yeah, even Call of Duty or Zelda, games that you are a participant in that world, is to me what immersive gaming or immersive entertainment is really all about. It's having the ability to step into somebody else's created world, and then whether that world continues with a creative point of view or is generated by AI and expands dynamically, it's being able to feel like you're immersed in the experience beyond something that is just being shown to you. It's fully interactive. It can apply to many, many different formats and many, many different types of experiences. And I think one of the challenges right now, just like the early days of games, we had to help the audience understand what kind of an experience they were going to have. So there was the ESRB, which was a ratings board that came out of needing to give people an idea that, well, this game has a lot of blood, gore, and violence, and that really should be a mature game. And this game is really for everyone, so it's an E-game, something that kind of mapped to the film ratings board. We need the same kind of thing when we talk about immersive, I think, because we'll talk about things like, oh, there's an immersive play that you should go see. Well, that play might be something that you just kind of walk through in a physical environment with little text and images or audio, or it might be something with a one-on-one encounter with somebody that can be deeply personal, deeply moving, and very mature in subject matter. But we refer to it all the same way. But however we think about immersive, I mean, life is kind of the ultimate immersive experience. And what we're doing now is we're building technologies and systems that allow us to have a lot more creativity in the spaces that we occupy, and a lot more feedback, like a game, in how we track, monitor, and reward people for participation. So like your rings on your Apple Watch, That's a game. It's a game that is about health, it's about activity, but you have a little feedback unit that lets you know how you're doing, and you get little rewards when you close your rings with animations. That construct of being able to be a participant, being able to have feedback, and being able to have a better sense of my progress and feedback from my interaction with the world, these things are only going to grow as we have new devices like AR glasses and better fitting VR headsets that let us really be enmeshed in a hybrid reality of both digital and physical. To move people from mobile to spatial, it's got to be non-invasive. Technology really needs to disappear. When you think about the early cell phones, they were like a brick that you held up to the side of your face and it irradiated your brain. Not the best consumer experience. Now, mobile phones fit in our palms of our hands, they have touch screens, but we still have to work with the technology in a way that isn't how we work human to human. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see technology, as it does, get better, faster, cheaper, lighter. And when we get things down to like the glasses that I'm wearing, where I have a device that has the ability to give me high definition field of view, full color display, that listens to what I'm saying and operates in the world with awareness so that it has contextual understanding. The intuitive nature of that and the fact that it's no longer separating me from the world is going to create a framework, I think, that will be what will replace what's in our pockets right now, which is the cell phone. It went from being a very expensive device that was for special use cases, like satellite phones that were used for emergency or military, to disposable technology that people buy every year or give to children as young as 6 years old with special feature designs. The market today is like those early days of a cell phone. It's still embraced by early adopters, technology enthusiasts. There's a lot of novelty, but we're starting to see some really, really important contributions being made by creators to be able to bring to life history and new experiences that change people's viewpoints, because we can now step into worlds and experience them in ways that are very much like we experience life. And I think as that technology develops into platforms that are accessible, it'll become ubiquitous, and it will just be a better way to do the things we're already doing and do new things that maybe we can't even imagine yet. There's concerns around going on autopilot and no longer having the cognitive discipline to find our own answers. I think Douglas Adams, in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, had a great dramatization of that. The number 42 coming from a big computer that gave people the answer, but they didn't understand the question. I remember, like in the early days of phones, you would have to know phone numbers, and you would know hundreds of phone numbers of people because there was no way to store it easily, so you learned them by memory. Now we have phones where you just say, oh, call so-and-so, and the phone does it for you. If we go down a path of giving up our agency, then yeah, we might end up in that Wall-E kind of future where we're just another part of the machine operating without autonomy and just consuming with attention whatever is given to us. It's really important that we don't lose the Socratic method, the ability to be deductive in our reasoning, to understand the frameworks, which is why something like Moxie, when we developed that, it didn't show up to a child's home with answers. It had answers to offer. It had thoughts and advice and lots of information. But we designed it so that instead of coming into a child's home to say, this is what you should do or this is how it should work, it was a little robot from the Global Robotics Laboratory, and it was an ambassador coming to learn how humans work in the world. So it came with questions, and those questions prompted conversations, and those conversations were basically led to missions or quests for children to complete in the real world. So Moxie was a springboard for interacting with the world, discovering other things, and really thinking about the world differently through a conversation. I think if technology takes us down that path, then it gets really exciting because we have basically the best guides in the world at our fingertips. Mentors, instructors, teachers, advisors, not to replace humans, but to really allow us to operate at our own speed in our own way and be able to evolve to be the best people we can be. We need to figure out the path before we know how to refine the path. So kind of like the Oregon Trail. The first people didn't find the Oregon Trail because there wasn't a trail to follow and they mostly died. And through experimentation, trial and error in the immersive Oregon Trail experience, eventually a path was formed and then other people could follow it. And then that path was refined and made easier to travel. And then we had cities and civilization. And we still get things wrong. But the point is where we start is not necessarily where we end up. And I think right now with a lot of the technology that we're developing, we're still just learning how to do the basic path. And we're making mistakes and there's going to be failures and unintended consequences, much like we're experiencing with social media right now. There's wonderful benefits, and then there are things that have happened that we didn't really expect or plan for. Just like now with AI, in trying to give AI a voice and a point of view and to be unbiased in its results, we're actually creating bias. So figuring out how to work with this technology is going to be a journey that we're all on, much like the Oregon Trail. If you look at a lot of the conversational chatbots, they're all designed around, I want to get you the answer as fast and accurately as possible. So in pursuing that, we found that we had to build a whole new framework to avoid giving you the answer directly, because we wanted to show up in a child's home to create a sense of discovery and playful exploration, which meant that we needed new systems that would know the answer, but then basically kind of drip it out to the child in a way that was interesting, that would create curiosity, and ideally motivate them to go find their own answers and then fact check with Moxie. So this is a very different approach to taking data and trying to use it to create understanding or incentivize curiosity. And ultimately with Moxie, the goal was to go away from the robot. We wanted people to come into Moxie as a safe place to be able to explore ideas, and then have Moxie go, you should go ask your friends about that and see what they would think. And you should go and do an experiment and see what the results are. So it turned out that it was highly motivating for kids. We had amazing stories of kids who were having trouble socializing in school, were not really engaging in education, had a lot of concerns that they didn't feel they could talk to people about, because when we're doing things human to human, there's a whole cognitive load that we don't really necessarily acknowledge. When I'm talking to you, I'm aware that maybe I'm standing here, I'm on camera, you're listening to what I'm saying, I might be feeling judged. So my responses are not as natural or as organic as they would be if we were like at dinner or something and just chatting. With a robot, much like in a video game, you now have a safe space to be able to talk about the things that maybe you would feel uncomfortable talking about with your partner or talking about with your teacher or a peer. This creates an opportunity space to be able to explore topics and find new information and discover new solutions that otherwise you might just be blocked in finding. And it was fascinating to see these kids open up and share things in the company of their parents that their parents would literally tear up and say, we've never heard that from our child before. Because now they were in an environment that was inviting a conversation that, for whatever reason, they didn't have the vocabulary or the skill set to unlock. And I think this is the real magic of where we can go with technology, is we can move away from, here are answers, and we can move away from frameworks that put us on autopilot. And as we get better with using these tools, and as the tools mature, we'll hopefully come up with ways that really meet you where you are, give you a space to explore who you are, and then motivate you in ways that engage the world and move you beyond where you are. But it's going to take time. It's not going to happen right away, and there's certainly going to be a lot of quick, fast, easy solutions. Technology is like fire. It can cook and it can burn, and it's going to be how we use it and apply it, and not everyone's going to use it the same. So the hope is we'll have enough people applying it in the right way that we can keep moving society forward. I think we are going to go through a period of great conflict, turmoil, and change. But on the other side, I think we're going to have an amazing opportunity for a renaissance in the arts and humanity. When you study something, it's very reflective, and it ends up giving you a greater appreciation for the thing you're trying to replicate or the thing you're trying to recreate. So in creating virtual worlds, you study our world. A lot of Disney movies and a lot of films and great works of art, they start with that human experience, and they try to dramatize it, shape it, and offer it to audiences so that they can see through the eyes of the artist. So when you're studying like a World War II city like Aachen, and you're trying to bring it to life as history in Call of Duty, you gain a whole new appreciation for the complexity of our world, the beauty of our world. When you're telling people stories from our world, you're getting new insights into the human condition, the struggles, the challenges, and the achievements. I think with AI, we are building, this new technological mirror for identity, for how we want to work in a world, how we want to think about the world, how we think about thinking. And I guess what I would say with the Texas Immersive work is that that really starts with human connectivity and human understanding. And some of the programming I think that could be offered that might be interesting is going deeper into that sense of identity, that sense of sharing your identity with others, and how that interaction can really spark new ways that we'll work with technology to humanize it. If there's one piece of advice I could offer, it would be intense curiosity. I think that's at the heart of every great journey, and everything else can be learned, but without intense curiosity, you're not going to go anywhere. And in our world, it's changing so fast. And as somebody that's loved the technology evolution that we've been on and seen many fast and rapid changes, AI is coming faster and changing the world in a greater degree than I've ever experienced. Education as a system grew up around specialized learning to be able to have people be able to do specialized jobs and be able to be tested and perform in reliability and accurately the jobs that they were given. This new era of technology is really like games about collaborative play. And so working together is really now going to be, I think, the key ingredient for successful companies, much like it always has been, but even more so because it's not about working together within a division, it's working together across divisions to really have impact holistically. One of the things that I noticed when my son was in grade school, he would go into the classroom and he would sit at a desk and he would get an assignment and there would be, closed book tests, and it was very, one-to-one, teacher to student. And then he would come home and he'd get on his Xbox and he would get with 6 other kids and they would go on missions and they would coordinate and they would learn together and they would play together and they would succeed together. And then they go back to the classroom and they're all little individuals in their boxes. And they're all expected to move along at the same speed. And then you have something like the Khan Academy come out and it says, well, actually, why don't we meet people where they are, educate them at their own speed, and better outcomes. So how do we do that at scale? Our education system hasn't kept up. And now with this new technology that can really meet people where they are, I think it's an opportunity to reimagine our education system, but it's also a necessity for universities to reimagine their organization, because the best companies aren't going to be about siloed employees. They're going to be about generalists that can use adaptive technology to maximize value. So we need to be teaching collaborative play across our universities. If you think about where AI takes us, maybe not next year, maybe not in 5 years, but at some point, we're going to have the ability to really just go from creativity to experience. And we're not going to need tons of people in between. There might be other people that we play with, but the idea to go from thought to impact is just going to accelerate. Just like, I used to have to write a manuscript and share that with people. And then we had the printing press and I could write, put it in a new format and distribute it wider. And then the internet, and now I could write and blast it out to everyone with no cost. And I could communicate faster, better, cheaper. That's going to start applying to every category of life. So I might have an idea for a piece of jewelry and I can sketch it AI can help me to articulate it. It can give me the blueprint for a craftsman to make it, or I can send it to like a 3D printer and have that piece made from my idea with just the tools to realize it. So in that future world where we don't need to go to a studio for financing because things cost a lot to make and they take a lot of time and permits and equipment, I can have an idea and visualize it and share it. If we take as an assumption that production is going to change, then what remains are the creators who have ideas and the audience that are excited to connect. And so for me, Snackshop is a first step towards creating a new framework, not a framework about distribution or re-promotion, but a framework about really celebrating creative artistry and finding new ways for them to find their audience. And I think that right now, if you look at much of the stores online, they're about products and they're about services. So if you're a fan, you know maybe who the director was. You might know who the writer was. You might know who the artists were. But that's not how the commercial system promotes, advertises, or is organized. It's organized around the financial institutions and the distribution systems of products. That's what I want to change with Snackshop. It's about the creative community first and the audience that they want to serve together as a collaborative marketplace. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here with the Texas Immersive team. The best part of the program has been being able to spend time with the students, be able to hear what they're interested in, what they're excited about, and to really be able to work collaboratively to help give them some insights and some things to think about to structure and strengthen their ideas. But where we are right now at a university in the heart of an emerging technology hub with some of the best players in the industry creating technology for tomorrow, this is such an exciting time to be here. And I think the best thing that came out of those conversations is just the optimism, excitement, and the desire to really have positive impact in the world.